Hi Internet, this is James Wilson and I'm going to explain why I hate horrible advice from doctors and bad trainers and all that stuff. And I'm going to break it all down logically with sidewalk chalk. So when people go visit a doctor and the doctor says, to lose weight, you need to do cardio, and they always recommend the worst kinds of cardio. They're like, yeah, don't run or anything like that. Just do a spin bike or the elliptical, which are just the worst, and drop your calories. You know, it's energy balance, so calories in versus calories out. You inquire further, and they're like, 1,200 calories. And I don't know why they all say 1,200 calories, but they just tend to say 1,200 calories. Here's the thing. They're way off base. You don't want cardio as your main emphasis, and you want more food. And I'll kind of go through and explain why. 200 years ago or 300 years ago, did anybody do cardio? Did they specifically like, oh, I'm going to go run. I need to lose weight. That's what I'm going to do. No, they didn't do any of that. They labored. So imagine that you have this house, which was really a wood cabin, that you built by hand, right? If you've ever chopped down a tree, you know how labor intensive that is. And once you chop down a tree, you then have to cut the tree into liftable logs to move 100 yards or so to your cabin. And then you do this back and forth. And then once you get to your cabin, you then have to further chop that wood into usable wood for your fireplaces and your wood burning stoves and all of that. And that's just one chore. You then also have to go and build a stone wall. Have you ever built a stone wall across an acre of property? That's labor. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of load. And you had to push and tug on your animals to plow your fields, and you had to build your barns, and you had to have maintenance on all of your property and your farming, and you had to stone grind your wheat so that you could consume that. And you had to catch your chickens, and you had to defeather them and cook them, and everything was very labor intensive. It wasn't cardio intensive, it was labor intensive. So 200 years ago, people, they labored. That's how they stayed in shape. They didn't do cardio, they labored. Now, let's get to carbs and what actually happens with them. So as you eat carbs, they go into your stomach. And what's going to happen is, it doesn't matter if it is barley or if it is table sugar, the body is going to eventually break that down into glucose and glycogen. Glycogen is stored in the liver and also in the muscle bellies. Glucose is a sugar that goes through the bloodstream, and this is regulated on a minute-to-minute, if not sooner than that, basis. And the glucose is there to help with your brain, as well as other vital organ functions with their energy needs. So the glycogen, the carb stores in your liver, are going to help supply the glucose. Now, the glycogen that is stored in your muscle bellies, this is to help you with human movement for muscle contraction while you labor. The problem here is that most people nowadays, they just don't labor. They wake up and they get to their car and they drive to work and they sit at work, and then they drive home and then they sit all day and they watch TV, and there's not really much labor involved. If you're a construction worker, you're laboring and you're probably in shape. If you work in an office, you're not really going to be physically laboring. You're going to be maybe mentally labored, but not physically. So it goes to the muscle belly, and then whatever is excess for carbohydrates beyond what is needed for the liver and your muscle belly is going to go to fat stores. And that's where insulin goes through and it pushes that, and insulin acts kind of like a key to push things into the fat cells for storage, for use later. But here's the thing, if you are using your muscles, then the glycogen will just fill and you're not going to get any fat stores from that. Where people become type 2 diabetic is that they're not utilizing their muscles, they're not laboring, and they're not managing their nutrition appropriately, so they're overflowing their muscles with glycogen in their liver, and their fat cells are like, hey, we're no longer accepting fat. And so that's where you start having higher blood sugars, because it's going through the bloodstream and it's not being able to go anywhere. The liver, the muscles are fat stores. So then doctors will say, you know, fix your diet, or here excess insulin to further help push that into fat stores, which isn't optimal. You need to labor. Now, doctors say cardio, right? When you are doing only cardio, you're going to take this muscle that is larger and you're going to strip that down. Because as you are running, especially really long distances, what's going to happen is your body's going to burn through carbohydrates. But hey, you've got another 5 miles to run, and so the body's going to be stressed and cortisol levels are going to raise, and it's going to strip away the muscle, which is actually feeding your metabolism and making you, or helping you, burn more calories, and it's making these muscles smaller. And you're like, yeah, I'm losing weight, but congrats, you're losing your metabolism, and you're now going to make it harder to be in shape. Here's the why. So remember how we talked about your glycogen going to your muscle belly, right? Now, if you imagine your muscle belly is like a storage unit, here we have a 20 by 20 storage unit. This can fill with a lot of stuff. But if you strip that away, it's essentially like you moving from a 20 by 20 storage unit to a 10 by 10. Now, can you fit the exact same stuff from a 20 by 20 to a 10 by 10? No. The answer is no, you cannot. What will end up happening is you will have overflow from all of your stuff that you needed to be stored. What happens when you have overflow? That's where you have fat storage. So less storage equals more fat. So if you're doing more cardio and you're stripping your muscle away, you're taking your storage unit, making it smaller, and if you ever consume above what is possible for this 10 by 10 unit, you are going to store fat. Yay for cardio! Now, that's why you have to keep lowering your calories and lowering your calories. Remember, if you're lowering your calories, if you were able to maintain your weight here on 2,000 calories, and you've now dropped your storage unit and your metabolism down here, anything above that now that's your metabolism, anything above that. So when you go to Cheesecake Factory and you get your miso salmon because it's super delicious, and you blow all your calories out of the water, you're going to store all that as fat. Congratulations. Hope you enjoy your cardio and your low calories. You're just going to get fatter. Now, on the opposite end, if you have less muscle, but you lift weights to maximize everything, you're burning your glycogen, you're actually utilizing your energy stores, and let's say that you even increase a little bit, right? You then increase your storage. So, as you can see, if we were to reverse this, if you went from a 10 by 10 to a 20 by 20, then more storage, less fat. Because if you're only utilizing this much of your storage unit, guess what? Nothing's going to fat. Not a thing. Because you still have all of this that you can fill up with glycogen. See how that works? So, the answer to the fat loss epidemic that everybody is really struggling with is not cardio. It's resistance training. And I promise you, you're not going to get bulky. I've been trying really hard for like 15 years to get huge, and it's really difficult. If you slowly bring up your nutrition over time through proper reverse dieting, you won't gain fat, but you need to stop doing all this cardio. It's really bad. Your doctor's giving you poor advice. They're honestly setting you up for failure. Yeah, people labored. The gym is a supplement for us not being farmers anymore. Plain and simple. And you have to labor. You can't just go in there and be like, okay, well, I'll lift some really light weights. Like if you're injured and you're rehabbing, okay, it's fine. You should lift light weights. But you need to labor. Like they lifted heavy logs and they carried them for a long distance. And I guarantee you they wanted to drop them. But they didn't have that option. They had to get all of that stuff done to live. View your resistance training in that same field of thought. Like, you have to do this so that you can live. So push your limits. If you have bigger muscles, and they don't even have to be super big. I'm not huge, and I maintain my weight on 4,000 calories a day. Ladies, you can eat more food. And you know, all these people that they've got a lot of calories or a lot of weight that they want to lose, look, you have to improve your muscle size. And I mean, honestly, a quarter of an inch around your arms isn't even going to be noticeable. A quarter of an inch of muscle extra on your legs isn't going to be noticeable, especially considering that a pound of fat, here, we're just going to draw this line. A pound of fat is roughly the size of a baseball, a pound of muscle is about the size of a baseball, which is that, essentially. A pound of fat is about the size of a small cantaloupe. Now, do you see the difference in size there? So as you gain muscle, you're still going to be way less than you are when you pull from fat. So you'll get smaller. Your circumferences will get smaller. Your inches will get smaller. Muscle is much more dense than fat is. So if you want to be in really good shape, please don't listen to your doctors and do gobs of cardio. You want to do as minimal cardio as possible. Back 200 years ago, yeah, they'd run, but they're running to do something or to catch something, or they were dancing. They weren't ever just running to get in shape. Cardio is not the answer. Carbs are not bad for you. You just need to make sure that they are within your personal range for your storage units, aka the muscle that you have. Muscle is going to make up your metabolism. Your laboring is going to assure that you don't gain any fat and that you don't get diabetes. So don't be afraid of carbs. Please don't be afraid to lift weights. If anything, reduce your cardio and make weights your priority. There you go. Hope this helps.